There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a very, very important topic to talk about today with our guest and with Brichelle. Brichelle, how you doing?
I'm good, Kevin. It's a beautiful day, as I said prior, and I'm thankful for the calm days. And as you said, this is a very, very important subject to talk about because it's a reminder that your life never has to stop. It can keep going on. So would you like to introduce her?
I would. Her name is Dawn, and she is. What did you just say before you're working to end retirement? Just say what you just said.
I said that my goal is to save the world one retirement at a time.
Oh, and very, very good, because Brichelle's got a large family and she's got older people that have been retired for a long time, for years. Now, and I've never asked you this, Brichelle. Are they active? Are they
Mhm.
active in retirement?
No, I mean they've got their ambitions and their things that they have passions in and other things, but I think they kind of come to a point where, oh well, I'm too old and my body won't let me and I'm too tired and those kind of things, all really just mentality that get in the way. It was actually funny, my great grandpa, when we were out there, he told me, I used to be able to lift my arm this high, now I can only lift it this high. And I'm like, but you just did it. So it's like those mental things that I think we're just used to, and the generation change is much different. And when you're older, you still have those ambitions, but um, I honestly don't necessarily know why it doesn't keep us going and thriving, but it's good to have them.
Yep.
Well, and Don, pronounce your last name for us.
Marcotte.
Marcotte, and hold your book up,
Oh,
please.
sorry. Can you see it? It's called Filling the Blank Page: How to Build a Retirement of Passion and Purpose. Because I talk about only the non-financial side, the psychological, social,
Yeah.
emotional, intellectual, all that kind of stuff that nobody else really talks about. Because, and to your point, the word retirement, when you say that word, people come up with a certain image in their head, and culturally, it's not a pretty one. There's
Yeah.
just that automatic assumption, and unfortunately, people tend to internalize that. Well, I must be useless, or I must be out of touch, or I must be this, or I must be that, and it's not true anymore.
Yeah.
We are not the people we were. We were not our grandparents when they retired. So that's what I'm trying to do, is to get the word out there that no, you can live a fulfilling, engaged, relevant life for as long as you want to.
Well, and I was just was surprised because Rochelle said that her great grandfather is still here, and
Hmm.
and I I can't. What are you, 12?
No, no, he's just a fighting man. He won't. He doesn't care. He's not going to let himself stop. A lot of my family's been that way, which I'm lucky for. On the other side of what hasn't, but it's crazy too because I'm thinking about this, Dawn, about how much I'm thankful for my grandpa and my great grandpa that are still here that
Hmm.
can teach me the things
Yes.
they've learned through their passions. And I
Hmm.
see that when they're on their own, it's not really there. But when they have other people around them that are curious as to bringing that spark back in their life,
Sure.
how important is that? Do you talk about that with people?
Hugely. Yes. In fact, that's one of the things that I am constantly telling people. The number one indicator of happiness and satisfaction in life, no matter who you are, how old you are, socioeconomic, gender, whatever, is your relationships. The social connection is huge. I can give you a great example of that. My dad's just going to love this. So, my dad is one of the most extroverted people you will ever meet in your life. He was a salesman for many years. He's
Same.
older, he's in his 90s now, but during the pandemic, he was isolated, as we all were.
Mhm.
And you could see it in his physical demeanor, in his mental capacity. Everything just slid downward. So
Yeah.
horrible. But the thing was, is once we got out of that and he was able to interact with people again, he snapped right back. So it's not, if you have reached a point where maybe you're not as healthy as you want to be, or people are telling you you're forgetting things, whatever it is, you re-engage socially and you can get some of that back no matter how old you are. So I tell everybody that story because I just think the change after the pandemic when he started becoming socially active again was absolutely amazing. It was a complete 180. So yes, that is hugely important to engage with, and it doesn't have to be your family, it can be friends, it can be the people at Subway, whoever, just getting out and interacting with people as much as you want to, as is good for you. I say it that way because I'm an introvert and my father's an extrovert. So I tell people I have 4 friends and 2 of them don't even live in the same state I do. But I'm happy with that. That's fine. My father, on the other hand, needs to talk to at least 4 people before breakfast in
Yep.
order to have a successful day. So
Yep.
you kind of, there's not one size fits all. You don't have to have, I have to have 10 friends to be happy. No, none of that. You need to figure out what works for you, but it is so, so, so important to establish those social networks and maintain them throughout your entire life.
When I was a food service salesman years ago, there was a restaurant in West Seattle called Snubby's. And Snubby's was a coffee shop, and he made homemade scones. They were great, by the way, and stuff like that. But there was always, when I would walk in there in the morning, there was always a table with 8 to 12 retired people, and what their mission in life apparently is that they would get up, and rather than stay in bed all day, and they would get dressed and they'd go down to this coffee shop, and then they would spend an hour and a half or 2 hours talking about, I don't know what, but they were talking about stuff.
Yeah.
And that was how they began their day, and it was a fulfilling place for them to be,
Sure.
because it was all these folks. And then you go to, like, my dad, who is my, and I think I mentioned to you before, and he was an executive with Nordstrom. He worked 60 hours a week, and I'm going to paint a complete picture for everybody. He had a good friend, and when he was 60 years old, he was head of children's shoes for the entire company. And he said to his friend when they were out to lunch, he said, I'm thinking I may want to retire in a year or two. Well, this friend went to one of the Nordstrom family and said, Jack's thinking of retiring. So the next day, when my dad went to work and Mr. Nordstrom walked into his office and said, Hey, I hear you want to retire. Here's your package.
Oh no.
And they
Oh.
packaged him that day, because they were, at 60 years old, you're a little older to be doing that. And so they packaged him and gave him a good benefit package, but he was required to leave. And so he'd been, for 30 years, he was Mr. McDonald. He was the guy that would go into the departments, and everybody made sure that it was all dusted and it was all clean, because Mr. McDonald's coming. Mr. McDonald's coming. And so he retired, and suddenly he was just Jack. And that, which is his first name, and he didn't know how to handle it. And then what even made it worse was he invaded his wife's house.
Yes.
He worked 60 hours a week his entire life, and she was like, don't you, have someplace to go?
Yep. Yep.
And
It's so true.
he thought he was going to have a great time, and then He tried gardening and he didn't like that very well. And he wasn't a car guy and he didn't like that very well. But he was a great golfer.
Okay.
And so they ended up moving to a golf where he could join a golf course that he could
Sure.
afford, which was Whidbey Island. And then he treated that as a job.
Okay.
He would get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and he'd go and he would have coffee and they'd talk in the cafe and then they'd go play around the golf and then they'd come back and they'd play gin until 5 and then he would go home because
Okay.
that's what working people did. And then he fell and broke his hip and then
Oh.
that he couldn't do that anymore. But
Right.
he didn't want to volunteer.
Mhm.
He didn't have anywhere to go. His
Mhm.
friends were all passing away or were still working.
Mhm.
And so it became a very sad existence. And I
Mhm.
see that in so many places and so many people.
Yes.
And your experience, Don, is that's kind of how it rolls for most people, isn't it?
For most people, yeah. So one of the things I talk about, I'm also a speaker, so I go out and talk to as many people as will have me about this topic. And one of the things that I touch on is that there are really 4 stages to retirement, and this is where I'm trying to save the world by one retirement at a time. The first stage everybody knows about, the honeymoon stage. That's what the finance industry is always hitting on. Oh, the freedom, you don't have to, answer those emails or get stuck in traffic, all those things. And that's true. It is absolutely fantastic for about 6 months. And then you hit stage number 2, which is where you're starting to realize that your job provided more than just a paycheck. It gave you the social interaction, it gave you some emotional support, those, hey, thanks for helping with this, that, or the other, those kinds of things. The intellectual stimulation, no matter what you do in your job, you're having to think about it,
Yep.
prioritize whatever it is. And it gave you a routine. You might not like the routine, but it was still a routine. And when you retire, that all goes away overnight. If you haven't planned on how to deal with those losses, you're lost. And usually what happens is what happened to your dad. You kind of fumble around for a little while and I don't like this and I don't like this. Ooh, I'll go try this. And something finally clicks and it works out. But that can take a couple of years. And that's the exploration phase. Now, my goal is to get you to the 4th phase, which is reinvention. And the difference between
Mm.
reinvention and explore is that it's just what it sounds like. You have reinvented yourself and your identity outside of whatever it was that you did for a living to earn money. But you're also more resilient because you have a plan. So to your point, your dad had this great golf and that was wonderful, but then something changed. Well, he didn't have a plan for what to do to deal with
Nope.
that, right?
No, yeah,
So
no.
when you get to that 4th stage, you've usually got a list of things that you want to do, a list of things that you want to try. So it's not uncommon for people to be taking care of their grandkids as part of their retirement. Well, kids grow up, they go to school, you're not needed anymore. Now what? Oh, hey, you know what? I've always wanted to learn to play piano. I've always wanted to go to Greece. I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted, right? You've got a list. So you're not fumbling around trying to figure out what are you going to do with your time. So that's why I say my goal is to get people to that final stage, that 4th stage, so that as life happens, because it does to everybody, you are ready and better prepared to deal with those changes as they come and maintain your level of happiness, your level of engagement, your feeling of being wanted and needed, as everybody does. We all want to feel wanted and needed.
Well, and I got to ask you about my situation
Sure.
because I do 10 or so podcasts a week.
Hmm.
I've got a team that I work with. They're all 20 somethings.
Okay.
Michelle's 26.
Okay.
The manager that works for me, the operations manager is 25.
Okay.
And I keep getting told, you're working with a bunch of young people, so that's going to keep you young, and you're not going to. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but I feel as good or better than I did 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And
Of
and
course.
and I love what I do. And by the way, Samuel, and I told you he was coming. And Samuel, he's watching us live,
Wonderful.
and he's from Kenya, and he's got a program in Kenya, and he feeds kids and stuff.
Yes.
and he loves our show. He listens to it every day. Samuel, thank you so much for being here. And Brichelle, sometimes she loses her connection, so she'll be back. I promise everybody, she'll be back. But Don, we need to take our first break, and
Sure.
when we come back, we're gonna talk more with you about how to get people engaged. Because one of the things that I've discovered, because at one time I had a program called Family Legacies, and I would interview older people. And
Mhm.
what I discovered is the same thing that you have discovered, is that a lot of times older people don't value themselves anymore because it was tied to their work or tied to their
Yep.
younger years or
Yep.
before they had that surgery or whatever it was. And
Mhm.
I want you to help educate us on how to take that into your 70s, 80s, and 90s until the good Lord decides it's time for you to go home. That we can make it all work for everybody. Shall we do that when we come back?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And we will be right back with Dawn. And hold your book up again.
Oh, here we go.
Filling the blank page, because when you retire sometimes there's nothing but a blank page. And but you know what, that's also extraordinarily freeing if you look at it from a proper perspective, and we're going to talk about that too when we come back. So we'll be right back. Everybody stay with us. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. You know, driving a bus taught me something powerful. Every day, people from all walks of life stepped on board. Some were cheerful, some were tired, some were lost in thought. Yet no matter where they came from, the bus still moved forward. Life is the same. We all ride together. And kindness is the ticket that makes the journey lighter. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope live. And welcome back, everybody. We're talking with Dawn, the retirement I got to do something with my life expert. And she,
I love it. I've just been elevated to expert. That's awesome.
well, and you have found, I think, in the work that you do and the speaking that you do and stuff, that there's a lot of folks that they they don't want to talk about retirement because they're knee deep in it and they just don't know what to do with themselves or how to handle it. And
Mhm.
then now, one of the issues that a lot of people have is finances. They didn't set up, and I know that, and I'm not sure if you have statistics on this or not, but a lot of older folks have not prepared adequately. So they're living on maybe just Social Security
Mhm.
or just Social Security, a little bit of pension or something
Mhm.
and stuff. So it's not like you're going to retire and then you're going to go on a cruise and then you're going to go travel the world and then and I used to travel for a living. I don't want to travel anymore. So,
There you go.
but a lot of people, they're just lost. Help us with some tips to get through that kind of
Sure,
thing.
sure. Well, okay. So unfortunately, I don't have any statistics or anything. I don't really spend much time in on the finance side because there is a whole industry that is there to do that for you. And I do highly recommend to anyone 20, 30, start now, get a financial plan or get it figured out so that by the time you're ready to retire, you have the finances available to allow you to do whatever you dream of. But I do want to I want to share a quote with you that, and this is why people can feel so stuck. It's a great quote. I'm going to read it by Dan Gilbert. It says, "We are not nearly done changing. We have the illusion that we have just recently become the people we will be for the rest of our lives. But at every age, we underestimate how much our values, our personalities, and preferences will change in the future. Because it's hard to imagine how we'll change, we mistakenly believe that we don't." And I love this quote because I think as a culture, everybody knows kids grow up, they change, they learn, they hit their teens, same thing, 20s, 30s, whatever. But there's this idea that by the time we're in our 50s and 60s, we've learned everything. So this is it. This is us. This is who we're going to be. And it's not.
No.
You can continue to grow and change, and you have the choice between, do I continue to change for the better and grow, Or do I kind of shrink, as you've pointed out, so many people do, their world just gets smaller and smaller and smaller because they're making the choices that allow that to happen. So one of the fun pieces of advice I give to people, or at least I think it's fun, start channeling your inner kindergartner. And this is why I say that. So if you ask a kindergartner, hey, do you want to go paint something? Yeah. Do you want to go play music? Yeah. They don't have that mental glass ceiling, that thought that, oh, I'm not going to be good at it, so I shouldn't even try it. And as adults, I think that is such a limiting belief, and we all have it. I'm the same way. If somebody says, "Hey, you want to come try this craft thing?" My first thought is, "Oh no, I really am not very good. No, 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 I can't do that. I won't be good at it." So even I, who knows better, still does that. But be curious about life. And I'm kind of old fashioned. I like paper and pencil. So I actually have a list on my refrigerator of the things that I'm interested in. And if I see a commercial on TV about AI, I'm kind of a nerd. I love the techie stuff. So I would love to take a class about AI. So I add it to the list. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it right now. Doesn't even mean I'm ever going to do it, but it's on the list. So at some point in the future, if I have some time or some space and I think, oh, I want to learn something new. What's on my list? What should I work on now? I've already got 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever. So I don't have that moment of, uh-oh, I have no idea what to do. What do I do? What do I do? And then you're fumbling around again. And the idea is to avoid that as much as possible.
Well, and the challenge, the unique challenges that older people have today, and excuse the expression, but crap is moving so fast.
Right. Yes. I
It,
totally get that. Yes.
I mean, it was what was it, 10, 15 years ago where a flip phone was the coolest thing. And
Right.
and and now when my mom was still here, she was like 89, and I wanted to get her a good smartphone. And so I took her to the store, to the phone store, and we got a phone for her. But because she, technology wise, was never her strong suit to begin with,
Okay.
so the technology had gone by her, and so she didn't understand how it worked. Um, my brother, and she had a computer and she had a printer, and my
Hmm.
brother-in-law uh, tried to help her because she said her printer didn't work. And you'll understand this, but she had, because she would not, she had no patience anymore, so she wouldn't wait. She had 1,200 documents in the queue.
Oh, oh no. That's, no, that's not going
and,
to work.
and for those of you that don't know what in the queue means, it means that there were so many documents that were waiting to be printed that it locked itself up.
Mhm.
And so he had to delete 1,200 documents so that it would work again, and stuff. So are there classes for older people to
Oh, there
take on?
sure are. In fact, my father, my 90-something-year-old father, used to teach them. He's lived in a 55 plus community for 30 years now at this point. He used to teach these classes. So there are, or community education is another good place to look. Or this is something that goes back to the social interaction. If you have friends who maybe have grandchildren who are looking to make a little extra money here and there, you can talk to them and say, hey, can you come teach me how to do this? Or, hey, can you come by once a month, once a week for a couple of hours and help me work through these technology or these things that I don't understand? Because then you're interacting with someone, you're learning something, and hopefully that it's on a regular routine. So that hits 3 of the 4 things that you're trying to replace in retirement. My dad actually does that, which is why I thought of that.
Well, that's really cool. But how many older people go, wait a minute, you want me to admit that I don't know something to my
Yeah, that can be a little bit tough. Yes, it can. But the way I look at it and the way he looks at it is she's his personal assistant. He was a business owner for 35 years and he always had an assistant. So this is in retirement, his personal assistant. It's her job to come help him do whatever he is struggling with or needs help doing. And it's worked out wonderfully well for both of them. Um, Another option, because again, it can be hard to admit that you're struggling with something, is to find local universities, community college like level universities
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
frequently have introductory classes for their students. They're young students who are coming in and don't know how to use Excel, don't know how to use Word, don't whatever it might be. So a lot of them will have introductory classes for a variety of softwares and things like that. So if that's something that you're struggling with, and frequently, as a senior, you might be able to audit those classes for free. Depends on the school, and
That's a
and
great point. That
yeah.
I'll bet you that's a thing. I'll
It
bet you that.
is. It is. I know my dad used to audit classes. He lives in Iowa, so he went to Drake University for years. He would just go, that looks interesting, and he'd go. He's usually finance. He's a numbers guy, but he would just sit in and audit. And when you do that, you don't have to do the homework, and you don't have to take the tests, and you just get to sit there and learn the topic that you are interested in. So I just love that. I think that's fantastic. But again, various schools have different programs and different things. You'd have to check into that.
Well, and the other thing is that if you're a senior and you are auditing like a community college class, you get to learn a whole different language
Hmm.
because the kids today speak so much differently than
Yes.
like as an example, when I was growing up, if you called somebody a dope, that meant that they were stupid or that you thought, and now being called dope is cool.
It's good. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yes.
it changes so much, and that's because your point is well taken. You cannot stop learning. You
Hmm.
cannot stop growing because your life continues.
Hmm.
And it's not like you can spend like your dad has been retired for 30 some odd years. If he didn't have the desire to continue to learn, then he'd be sitting in his house watching TV
Hmm.
doing nothing.
Yep.
And which a lot of I live in a 55 plus community. I don't know very many people here because first of all, they're old. And secondly, it's kind of a joke,
That.
but it's not really because that. But you see, and that's the thing that I hope that you can convince people is that just because you're older and you've got a lot of baggage in your trunk, if you will, that you've been through a lot and stuff,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean you get to be a sourpuss. You still need to smile. You can be kind. You can be thoughtful. You can help people.
Hmm.
That is. I have to laugh. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and there are a lot of people out there who would love to learn from your life experience. There are lots of programs out there for mentoring, whether it's mentoring in business, mentoring kids. I myself am looking into the idea of being a foster grandma because I just think that would be so much fun to do. So then you get to be somebody's grandma or somebody's grandpa, and I loved being a mom and I loved doing all those kid things, the zoo and the museums and all that stuff. And my kids are too old for that now. They look at you funny when you bring a 30-year-old to the children's museum. So, right? So, but if I'm somebody's grandma, I can still do that and have fun. So there are all kinds of programs out there. You have to look for them sometimes, depending on where you live, especially if you're not in a metropolitan area. It can be more difficult to find them, but there are lots of people out there looking for your knowledge and your experience to help them learn and avoid some of the things that you learned the hard way. So that's another great way to continue to grow and to feel needed.
And by the way, we're talking with Dawn, the retirement person specialist that can help you figure out. And hold your book up again.
All right, here we go.
Filling the blank page and the subtitle.
How to build a retirement of passion and purpose.
If you are sitting here saying, I don't have any passion anymore and I don't have any, you need to really reevaluate that, because if you have passion and purpose in everything that you do, not only are you going to live longer, you're going to live happier. At least that's my humble opinion. Don, what do you think?
I think that's exactly spot on. And it can be hard for people too, because the culture is so loud about telling us our shoulds. We should be doing this or we shouldn't be doing that. And if somebody, for example, I have a mother-in-law who loves crafting, and that's what she does with her time, and she loves it, and she donates her things, and that's her passion that she has chosen. And that's okay. The culture says, yep, she's a girl, it's okay to sew. Great, right? but
Exactly.
but I also happen to know men who enjoy the same hobby, and they do not get the same feedback, but they're just as passionate about it, and so they kind of have to do it on the sly a little bit. So it can be a little more culturally difficult, but it's so important to just identify and think about when you were a kid too, because that's the other thing. I know as adults, I know when I was a kid, there were things that I was really interested in. But again, as you grow up, no, you cannot dance, you can't hold a beat, forget it. Move on. I would love as an adult now that I have remembered that to go back and go, hey, these people over here, they teach swing dancing. I've never done that. Maybe I could do that, right? That curiosity, that think about things over the course of your life that if you'd had to give up because you didn't have the time or you didn't have the money or you just didn't feel like you could for whatever reason, think about those things and try and reignite that and give that a try. But be ready to fail too. That's an important thing to remember. It doesn't always work out.
Wow, we're going to talk about that when we come back. And if Brochelle's computer figures out how to work, remind me about the line dancing story, because she's got a story about that
Oh,
I'd love for her to share.
okay.
And if she doesn't come back, I'll share it anyway. But we need to take a quick break, and we are talking with Dawn. And your last name again is
Marcotte.
Marcotte, and the name of the book again is
Filling the blank page.
And I'm going to fill your blank page with this announcement right now. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin and Rochelle, who is having computer problems, but that's life. But Dawn is here, and Dawn, I played that because
I love that one. I love that commercial. I'm sorry. I just do. That is so fantastic.
Well, thank you. And I play that because, okay, so you're on a fixed budget, so you can't travel the world. However, you can be kind.
Mhm.
That doesn't cost a dang thing. You can smile at anybody and you can say nice things to somebody. You're looking nice today, dear, or it's nice to see you again, or you work so hard at the grocery store and thank you for the work that you're doing, or Mr. Bus Driver, thank you for being a bus driver. There's so many things that you can do that don't cost anything that can also uplift you at the same time. Do you agree?
I do agree. That's one of my biggest passions in talking about retirement, is talking about how people that are retired, there's cultural, you need to be volunteering, but not everybody wants to volunteer, but you can give back in so many ways that don't involve, going to the soup kitchen or donating clothes, whatever. One of the things I love to highlight is giving back to your passion. So you talked about your dad and the golf, and how he really enjoyed that. I was waiting for you to start that he started mentoring kids, teens, trying to get them into the game, or doing something that way. That would have been a natural extension and would have been giving back to his community. Now, not everybody does it, but it's a great way to uplift the whole world. You're saving the whole world if everybody's doing a little bit.
I asked him, I said, Dad, why don't you volunteer? Why don't you go be a dog walker or go work, go to the rescue center and pet the dogs and to maybe walk. And he said, no. Are they going to pay me? And I
Yep.
and it's,
Yep.
Dad, I want you to look up in the dictionary what volunteer means.
Right.
Then volunteer means that you're not going to get. Well, if I'm not going to get paid, I'm
Right.
not going to do it.
And there is that idea that volunteering has to fit into this particular structure, and that's not true. I do group coaching, or I'm part of an organization that does group coaching around this, and we were talking about this topic, and we actually had one of the participants that say, I am absolutely not ever volunteering. I don't like it. I'm not doing it. And in talking to him a little bit, turns out that he and his partner have nieces and nephews that they are constantly doing stuff with, taking them places, sharing things with them, helping them learn. And we pointed out to him, you are already volunteering. You're just not doing it in the way that you think that word means. So anything that you are doing that helps others, any kindness that you give, is a little bit of volunteering. It doesn't have to be I need to show up at this time, or I need to check in, or it doesn't have to be formal. And that's part of the beauty of it. If you're passionate about something, I'm going to throw one of my brothers under the bus here. Uh, I have several.
Oh, good. I love
They're
that.
both insane, but this one is particularly insane. He really likes to do these long distance bike rides, like hundreds and hundreds of miles, where you don't
Oh,
stop
God.
to eat, you don't stop to sleep, you don't stop to do anything, right? And then you're done, and hopefully you win, and it's great. And he loves it. And he's been doing it for quite some time. But when he started, it was just him and a couple of buddies, and hey, let's go check out this sport and whatever. But at this point, it's a little bit bigger organization. And when they have new members or new people that are interested, he will mentor one. He will pick one, usually a woman, and say, hey, let me help you out. And he shows her the rope. What are the good races? What's the good technology? All the things that go into extreme sports? He just kind of helps them figure it out. And they either decide, yes, this is for me, or no, it's not. But he'll stick with them for a couple of years. And he just lights up when he talks about these women going to these races and having these experiences. And he doesn't think of it as volunteering. He doesn't even think of it as mentoring. He's just having a good time and helping other people have a good time doing something he loves to do. Guess what? That's volunteering. And it's just not the way he thinks about it, but he does it and has been doing it for years.
Well, and that gives him purpose
Yeah.
and passion, a reason to get up in the morning.
A reason to get up. Yep. He loves it. And it's seasonal, so they're training during certain seasons and so forth. But if I told him that he spends this much time volunteering, no, I don't. I'm just hanging out. We're just going for rides. I'm just, helping her learn, whatever, right? But he's done it over and over and over. I can think of at least 3 or 4 names just off the top of my head of women that he's helped. And it is a male-dominated sport, so it's nice of him to do that in a way that they're not feeling threatened and so forth, and he's not being creepy about it or anything. But and he loves it, and he will continue to do it for as long as he can. But that's not something, if I asked him if he volunteers, that he would think about saying that that's what he does. But again, it's his passion. He's giving back to his community, so he's making his little area just a little bit better.
And I was just thinking, I live in a 55 plus community.
Mhm.
And they have a new rec center that they've opened not too long ago.
Okay.
And they've got a little space in there that is what they call their library.
Okay.
So I was just thinking, if I wasn't doing this and I love to read,
Mhm.
it would make sense for someone to volunteer to organize the books, to
Mhm.
go in search of new books
Mhm.
and to build the library, and then to give outreach to the people that were at home, that they can come in and they can get a book or two. And I mean, you could make a whole thing about that
You
if you
could.
chose to.
You could. Exactly. So if there's just something that you see that needs to be done, and you step up and do it, and you're not asking to get paid, by definition, that's volunteering, whether you want to or not. So, you know, anyway, yeah, it's so true. So again, our culture gets very locked in. Things must be a certain way, and I'm trying to swim upstream and fight against that. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't have to be that way. Stop listening to them. Do it my way. Let me tell you how to live your life. I will be so helpful. Trust me.
Well, I have to tell you, and this I mean sincerely for everybody. Years ago, I did a program called Family Legacies. And the premise was, because of my radio background, I had the edit or the recording equipment, and I could also edit it. And so I would go and I solicited people to have me interview their mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, somebody of age that was not going to be around forever,
Hmm.
and that they could tell their story, and then their children could then um, have that CD, so that that story would be in their mom or dad's voice.
Oh, I love that.
And so it would end the hour, and I condensed it to an hour.
Hmm.
And so and then they could reproduce it and give it to
Hmm.
their grandkids. Now it could be digital, and it
Hmm.
could stay alive for hours or
Forever. Yeah,
forever.
forever. Yeah.
And I had a terrible time getting older people to want to sit down and oh no, my life story isn't worth
Who
anything.
wants to hear about that? That's just boring. It's
And
not. Oh my
I,
gosh.
so this man said, "Yeah, I would like you to interview my father. He doesn't think that he was valuable, but I'm telling you." And so I sat down and I said, "So tell me about your young life." And he said, "Well, I was in World War II, and I was chief of staff for. You probably don't know who this is, but did you ever hear George Patton?" I said, I said, "Hi." You mean General George Patton, the one who led the Third Army across Europe and saved Europe from Hitler? And he goes, "Oh, you've heard that story." So it was like, "Are you kidding me? You need to write a book about your interaction." Oh no, I couldn't write a book. And and then I said, "So what'd you do after the war?" And he said, "Well, I went to California and I worked in have you heard of Hollywood?" And I said, "Tell me about Hollywood." And he said, "Well, there was a guy there. His name was Bing Crosby, and I met him and worked. And then he introduced me to his buddy Bob
Oh,
Hope,
that's awesome.
and I worked. And I said, "So you knew Bing Crosby and Buddy?" And he said, "Oh, you know who they were, do you?" And it's like, holy moly! And so, and then there was another lady. it was the greatest story. Her and her husband were married for 55 years. They had 5 kids. She was a soda jerk in 1941.
Okay.
And a soda jerk, for those of you that are a little younger, they used to have these places where you could get a soda or an ice cream soda or something like that. And these people that work behind the counters, like a barista today, were called soda jerks. And so he was telling, no, it was a she, and she was saying, well, this man came in a uniform. He was my age, and we got to talking, and he said, you know, I'm being deployed, meaning he was going to Europe in 2 days. And he said, but I think you're attractive, and I would love to take you out tonight because I'm going to Europe, and the war's on, and I don't know whether I'm going to be coming home, and I could very well die there. And she said, okay, we'll go out, and I would love to take you out, and we'll go and we'll have a good time. So they went, had a fabulous time. He came back to the soda jerk place the next day and proposed.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And so they went to a justice of the peace that day, and they got married. And then he was deployed. He survived, came back. They had 5 kids and were married for 60 years.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And people don't realize, I mean, even just to the family, how important those stories are to keep and to share.
Oh yeah, it is remarkable. But people, and so so the point I'm trying to make here to everybody that's listening, and now with the digital age, you can use your smartphone, you can use all of this. Make sure that you get a recording of your loved one's voice and their story,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that great grandkids, and that could become a thing, and that
Mhm.
could be something that you could do but when you're retired, to talk to other retired people, and then to do, and then to put it together and to give them a gift. Oh, it would be magical.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's kind of funny because I was thinking, hopefully my father-in-law is not going to listen to this, because I was thinking of a Christmas gift for him for next year was to interview him. I've got a whole list of questions and put together kind of a book of his memories, of his memoirs, basically, and give it to him and maybe one to the family for Christmas not this year, but next year, because it takes too long to get together. But I was thinking, wow, how awesome that would be, because he was in the Navy and he's done all kinds of things, of interesting things in his life. And I'm sure that I'm probably the only one who thinks this way, but my parents were born fully adult. They never had a life before me. That can't possibly be true, right? And so
Yeah.
to get those stories about what was life like when he was a kid on the farm, or a young man in the Twin Cities with his first job, or whatever it is. So it's kind of funny you were thinking. I think that would be a phenomenal thing for people to do, is to start gathering those stories and recording them and keeping them safe and sharing them with each other, because if you don't know your history, you might repeat it and it might not be pretty. So
And I want to make sure, and I've mentioned this on the show before, but there are lots of people that are listening to this that didn't listen to that. I decided to do this with my mom and dad. And so I took my equipment up to their house, and I interviewed my dad in October. He had surgery for lung cancer on December 7th, and he died on December 30th.
oh my
Uh,
gosh.
he had a brain aneurysm and passed away. He had a memorial service. I took the recording that I did of him, edited it down to about 10 minutes of how he met my mom, his
Oh.
his life story of what he valued in life,
Mhm.
how he wanted to be remembered. And I did a 10-minute piece and took it to it was so funny. I took it to the pastor for the memorial service, and I said, "You guys have a sound system?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, Do you have a way to play a CD?" And he said, "Yes." "Give it to the guy in the back." So I gave it to the guy in the back and said, "Wait till I'm speaking, and then I want you to play this." And he said, okay, what is it? A piece of music or something? And I said, no, you'll see. And so I announced that I had done this with my dad and that this is his story. And they played it over the loudspeaker. It was his voice talking about
Oh my
how he
gosh.
met my mom, how he wanted to live his life, and how he wanted to be remembered. There wasn't
Wow.
a dry
I was
eye.
going to say, you're going to make me cry, and I don't even know him. So
It was,
that is awesome.
and I encourage everyone to do that. And it doesn't nowadays. In those days, it took some skill. Now it takes
Right.
nothing.
Yeah.
You
Cell
can do it.
phone.
Yeah, and you can just do it at the drop of a hat. So, by the way, we're talking with Dawn. Hold your book up again.
Oh, here we go.
Filling. Go ahead.
Filling the blank page, how to build a retirement of passion and purpose.
And we're going to take a 30-second break, and we'll be right back. More with Dawn right after this. I hope you're enjoying this, because if you are of a certain age, this is very important. Or if you know somebody of a certain age, this is even more important, because you can be helpful to them. We'll be right back. Hey, while we're on break, here's something to remember. Life is not always easy. We all face challenges that weigh us down. But even on the heaviest days, positivity can still be within reach. One story, one kind word can shift the entire course of your day and everyone around you. That's why we're here, to remind you that you're not alone and that hope is always possible. And now we're coming back. So thank you for listening to Positive Talk Radio. And welcome back, everybody. And Dawn is here, and she helps people create. First of all, I got to ask you, we're starting to do these shorts and stuff rather than playing commercials and stuff. Do you like them? Or do they make sense?
I do. I do. I like them.
Oh, good. Good. Because I've got like a dozen of them, and they're all kinds of different topics and stuff. But that's kind of the direction and how I want to take the show and make it really meaningful, not just another radio.
You have my personal approval to do that, and I'm sure that's very important to you.
Oh, it is. It is. You're delightful, by the way. You're gonna have to come back.
I would love to. There's so much still have to talk about. We're not going to be able to squeeze it all in, so I would love to come back.
No, and I really want. But Brachelle's got she's 26. She's got a great grandfather who's still here. She's got several grandfathers. Her grandmothers have passed away, several of them, but she's got a huge family, and it's great to get to know these people, because I'll give you an example. My grandmother, before she passed away, she couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, but she loved to sing happy birthday.
Okay.
So we recorded it on an old cassette recording of her singing happy birthday, and we wanted to keep it forever. Well, they downgrade over time.
Yeah. Yep, they do.
And so it's gone forever. And now that doesn't have to be.
Nope.
You can keep the stories. Her sister I interviewed, and when her mom was pregnant with her, she thought she had indigestion and didn't realize that she was pregnant, and all that. So the stories that can come out from people that are older, and the wisdom.
Yes.
Oh, the wisdom is unparalleled, because everything that everybody else is going through now, you already did. So you can give them some help.
Agreed.
So, I hope everybody takes this into account, because let's talk about you and the reason you wrote the book and what the book is going to accomplish.
Okay. Well, the book actually grew out. I mentioned I do some group coaching. It actually grew out of a conversation during one of those sessions where one of the women was saying that she and her girlfriends, her lady friends in the neighborhood, would go for a walk, however often they did. And it was a frequent topic of discussion of, what do we do when we retire? We have no idea what to do with our time. Now, these were executives, and to your point, like your dad, working 60, 80 hours a week, whatever. And they understand or understood that when they stop working, they're going to have to fill that time. And they kept talking about the fear of the blank page. And so that's kind of where I got the title of the book from. The point of the book, or if you read the book, is to help you figure out, first of all, what is your compass for making the choices of what to do to fill that time, meaning your values, your personality, your character strengths, things like that. So once you have your compass and you can start making choices, how do you make new friends? Because we're adults, nobody makes play dates for us anymore. We have to figure it out on our own, right? Which is part of the problem. When you leave work, you don't have those built-in social connections, and some of us might have gotten a little bit lazy and not really remember how to make friends anymore. So that's one of the topics that I talk about is here's, 3 steps to how to make friends. You start with where you are, blah, 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 right? It walks you through that. Some of the other things that I talk about are building a routine, because again, humans do better when we have a routine. Well, what is your perfect week? Yours might be different from your spouse's. You guys need to talk about that and figure that out. um, Things like that. So the point of the book really is to help you build a plan. Hopefully, even before you retire, you can start working on these so that you skip that second lost phase of retirement that we talked about earlier. Work through the exploration phase, having lots of fun, trying lots of new things to get to that reinvention stage faster and more effectively. And when you're in that stage, one of the things that I didn't mention earlier, and this is where the saving the world part comes in, for most people in that reinvention stage, they are giving back to their chosen community in some way. Not necessarily volunteering, like we talked about before. It could be just doing nice things for other people because that's what you want to do, but you're giving back. And that builds the whole world up. And if everybody that retires is doing that in their little spot in the world, the whole world's going to get better. So that's why I say that. But yes, it lays out some very concrete step 1, step 2, step 3 kinds of things of the different aspects, the social, the intellectual. Uh, if you're married, I talk a little bit about some of the things you need to talk to each other about before you're retired, to make sure that goes a little bit smoother, so you're not like my father, alphabetizing the spice rack in my mother's kitchen.
I was gonna say that, and
Right? Don't do that. It's bad. It's a bad idea.
well,
Um,
and if you're gonna retire, and my dad didn't do this, he didn't get
mhm,
it, and they
mhm,
didn't communicate that well. But she has set up her house and her kingdom. It's been that way for 30 years.
mhm.
You can't go in and start rechanging what she spent 30 years developing because she's happy with it. And so
Exactly.
let it go.
Yes, yes.
Learn
She took him firmly in hand at that point.
Just let it be, because go find something else to do and
Mhm.
and if you start irritating her, go find 2 things to do. Y
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
even walking, even starting a dog walking thing for your
Mhm.
neighbors, it's a great way to get some exercise,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can walk
yeah.
the dog and you can get out of the house because, that's a big thing, is getting
It
out of the house.
is. It is. Well, and one other thing I just want to quickly mention, that I actually went out and interviewed and surveyed retirees. So the book isn't all just from me. It is also from people who have lived it. So I have an entire chapter of advice from retirees on a variety of topics. So even if you just get it for that chapter, it is well worth it, because these are people that have lived it, and they understand the challenges, and they were able to advise, well, I wish I would have done this, that, or the other. And it's a great resource for that.
And I was just thinking too, boy, you're really generating a lot of thoughts in my little pea brain. Which
Oh, good.
one one would be, if you're in relatively good health,
Hmm.
and there are lots of people that are in assisted living and retirement homes. Now, it doesn't mean that you've got to have a medical degree or any of that, but you can plan a time, go talk to the
Hmm.
administrator and say, I would love to come and just hang out during lunch.
Hmm. Oh, for sure.
And because there are people that their family is not with them, they're away, and they're lonely. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
anybody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And the other old lady that's in the same room probably isn't very talkative, and they don't like each other. And so there's lots of things that you can do to give back in a positive
Yes,
way.
very
And
much so.
and so if somebody wants to get your book, how do they get it? Amazon?
Well, Amazon, of course. But it's also available on other like Barnes and Noble and Apple and all the major places have it. It is also available if you prefer as an audiobook on Amazon. I know I'm one of those people, I like to listen to my nonfiction as opposed to reading it. So it is available there as well.
Perfect. And Don, I need to invite you back. I'm hoping that you'll come back and see us again. And you've been delightful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I would love to do it again. I hope people learned something and got a little enjoyment out of it as well.
Well, and anything that we can do to give people an idea of how they can spend their time when they got too much time and they don't know what to do.
Exactly.
So
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're gonna come back. This is an important topic, and I hope that your speaking goes well, and the book. There's got to be a second book coming. I'm gonna.
Yes, I actually already have an idea for the next book because real quickly, a lot of people that retire end up going back to work or starting their own business. So as a serial entrepreneurial myself, my next book I think is going to be around that topic.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm working more now than I was
You had
when
no
I was
idea.
working.
I'm sorry. I'm just the wrong audience, right?
Don, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day, everybody, and thank you. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.